Hey guys, I'm Tammy and welcome back to my channel. I'm finally sitting down today and giving my thoughts on the Pfaff Creative 3.0 sewing machine. I realised I literally bought this a year ago, so this is a perfect time to give my honest review on this sewing machine. So I'm just looking on Google and currently this machine retails at £3,300. I don't remember it being that expensive. I swear I got this on a deal where it was maybe like just under 3,000, maybe 2,000 something, but yeah, currently it's 3,300, or you can buy a used one on eBay at the moment and that's £2,000. So it's a very expensive machine. It's definitely in your high-end machine range. And the reason why I personally chose this machine is because before this machine I had a really basic brother machine. I think it's the LS14 and it probably cost around £80, but it got the job done and I was really looking for a machine to really elevate my sewing skills and in general just make the process of sewing so much easier. The reason why I chose the Creative 3.0 is because it felt like that really upgraded next level to sewing, and specifically this one has an embroidery arm to it, so it's a sewing and embroidery machine, which is why it's more expensive. But I thought that I'd be doing all the embroidery. Obviously a year later I've not even touched the embroidery section of this machine. I do want to do it, but I'll get into that later. But I personally was looking for a really modern and computerized machine, so everything's all digital, and that is something that is incredible about this machine. So I'm going to go ahead and give you an actual walkthrough on my machine, but let me just pull up what at a glance they say about this machine on the website. So it has a color touchscreen, something that really drew me to this one. Exclusive stitch creator feature, so you can actually make your own stitch, which is something super innovative. I still haven't tried that, but that was a cool feature on this machine. And the other reason I chose this machine is because it has a built-in walking foot that you can release and put on really easily, as well as having an automatic thread cutter, and it also threads the machine automatically under the bobbin. It's also massive on my desk. If I just move out the way, this is my brother overlocker. Obviously it's pushed back to the wall, so it does look smaller, but this by a mile is much bigger on any desk. So if you're buying a machine like this, you need to make sure you have a big desk space, otherwise it will just take up too much room. But let me go ahead and just show you the actual machine. So this is what the machine looks like from this angle. As you can see, it has a touchscreen feature, 2 different buttons, and a really nice large workspace area. And then if I just open this up, this is where you have all the details of the stitching that you have on this machine. And this is also where the thread goes. It's very easy to thread this machine. It definitely was a bit of a learning curve because it is different to my old machine. But once you get the hang of it, it's very, very easy. So this is a feature that I didn't even realize this machine has. And it has this gauge of how big a button should be compared to the buttonhole size. So you would literally just put a button here, and depending on the size of the button, it will actually tell you what size your buttonhole length should be. So that is super clever, something really easy that I imagine was to implement into this design, but such a nice detail for this machine. And then as you can see, you've got all the details of the different types of stitches you can do on this machine. There is such a huge variety, and that's something I really admire about this specific machine. You literally have lots of different buttonholes, normal stitches, and hundreds of decorative stitches. And then this is what the touch screen actually looks like. So this is just rolling through a little loop that is just on standby. But once you press it, you are automatically taken to this standard machine screen. And this basically just is showing you your current stitch. So this is just a normal straight stitch. It actually tells you in the corner here what foot you need on the sewing machine. And then this indicator tells you that the IDT system is currently on, which has the walking foot. And then you also have these 3 different options, which basically tells you what's on screen. So if I press this button, you can see it tells me what that is actually for. So that's the needle position on the sewing machine. This button is your stitch length. So if I just show you that. And then this one is your thread tension, which you can adjust manually as well. It's a really nice, easy to navigate machine, which is why I personally chose this one. I really like the touch feature on this machine. And then you have all these buttons on the side. This one is your sewing setting, and then the one underneath it is your embroidery setting. So if I just press that button, you can see the embroidery section of the machine is on. You'll also need to put the embroidery arm on to activate this, but I'm just going to be in the normal sewing section. And then this section is where you have all the different types of stitches. If I press that button, you can see all these different types of stitches, and they're actually broken down by group. So you can see essential stitches, overcast stitches. So if you don't want to use your overlocker, you can use this to create a similar effect. Lots of different buttonholes, eyelets and bar tacks. And then these are more your decorative ones. So you have literally so many of them. If I just click into any one of those, you can just go down and see all different types of ones. I also love that this machine has a favorites feature. So I have a personal menu here, which has my 2 favorite stitches. This is personally the zigzag stitch I like to use. It's nice and close and narrow, and this is just my standard stitch. So I've just got a standard stitch setting on the machine, and I'm just going to do a tiny row of sewing just to show you what that looks like. You have all these buttons up here, and they're basically just relating to when you're actually sewing. So this button is to put the presser foot down. And as you can see, it pushed it down, and that means now I'm ready to start sewing. You can also press the presser foot up and then up again to go even higher. But obviously right now I'm going to sew, so I'm going to push it all the way down. And then you literally just start sewing. So this is the button to go backwards. So I can just press that button while sewing and it will go backwards. And if you want to go backwards continuously, you just press it once and it will go backwards. And then you press it again and you can continue stitching forward. This is the automatic thread snip. So if I press this button, you can see it snipped the thread. It also lifts the presser foot up, so I can just take this out and that is now ready. There are also these buttons up here. To be honest, I don't use any of them apart from this one. This is the one that you use when you want to put the needle down into the fabric, because you can actually set your machine so the needle is always down in the fabric and then it always finishes down as well. Or if you want to pivot and you're sewing a corner, you would press this button to put the needle down, pivot, and then bring it back up. So let me also just show you how one of the decorative stitches works. So there's obviously so many. I'm just going to pick a really random one like this leaf detail. And when you click it, you can see it actually shows you the exact scale of how this is going to stitch. So this is to scale. So it's going to be this wide and this long. And you can play around with lots of different settings, but let me just show you the basic. It also tells me I need a 2A foot and that I should be interfacing this, but for this video, I'm just going to be showing it to you without interfacing the fabric. It should still work fine. Something I didn't realize about this machine until I got it is also the inside storage space. So this is where I actually keep all my extra sewing feet. If I just open that up, you can see it has all these different features. So it has a little screwdriver thing, this little duster which you can use to clean your machine. I definitely need to use that. And then it comes with all these different feet, which is a really cool feature of this machine. So on there it says I need a 2A, which is this one, because it says 2A and it's facing this way. So we're going to put it into the machine like we can read it. So it's going to go in that way. This also has a measurement gauge in centimeters and inches, which I use all the time when I'm sewing. So that's also very useful, as well as also having it on the needle plate. It might be a bit hard to see with the light, but it's really easy and intuitive. And I use this all the time when I'm actually looking to measure my seam allowance. The back also has storage. This is where you keep the foot for buttonholes, and I also keep extra needles in there. So it's got a lot of storage. I won't need the walking foot for this. I'm going to take that off. You also need to take that off when you're changing the foot, but you just press down and then you add the new one like you normally would. So I'm just going to do that and put the thread behind there. And then again, this is the design that I've chosen, and I've got some spare fabric here that I'm going to try on. So whenever I've used this sort of stitch, I normally just press stop and play. You can actually choose how long you want the stitch to be, but for this example, I'm just literally going to press stop and play. You can also put your foot on the pedal of the machine to start and stop the stitch. But if you actually have like a set length you want and you don't want to press the pedal, you can press this button and it will sew for you. This actually works for any sort of stitching, even if you're doing a normal stitch, not even embroidery or a decorative stitch. You can use this button and play around with how fast or slow you want the machine to go, and it will sew a seam for you. I personally never use this if I'm sewing myself because I like actually pushing the pedal, but this is definitely useful if you just want to sew something and you don't want to put your foot on the pedal. So I'm just going to place the foot down and I'm going to press play. It's going to go really fast, but you can stop and start whenever you want. So this is what it did. That was all real time. I didn't speed that up. It is really, really fast when you press the stop and start button, but obviously you can change the speed. It is such a cute stitch. This is just one of literally so many. This is the front, and then the back looks like that. If I just compare that to the screen, you can see that the length and the width is exactly the same as what it is on screen. So it is actually life size, which I really like because you can judge what you want that to look like. So one cool thing about this machine that really drew me to it is the fact you can actually embroider your own name, and they have these set styles that you can choose from. So if I just choose a normal one like script, I can actually input my name or any word I like into this and it will stitch it for me. So if I just put my name, I'm going to go lowercase. You can see it spelled out Tammy, and I can press select and it's got what I've written out, and this is the live size that it's going to be when we embroider it. It also has it only once. You can actually program this so it does it multiple times, as many times as you like. But for this example, I'm just going to show it to you done once. So I'm just going to put my fabric under here and again lower the presser foot, and I'm going to press play again. You know this button I set up here? This is the button you use to press play, or you can just use the foot pedal to press play and stop and start, but I'm just pressing the play button. So I'm just going to press the play button and it's going to stitch it for me now. So that was actually done in real time. So that's how long it actually took. And this is what it looks like. So this is the front side and that is what the back side looks like. As you can see, it is really, really cool. It's such a nice feature to have. Let me show you actually another font and what the same name looks like with that. Again, that was also real time, and this is what that looks like. I mean, it kind of looks like it says Tommy, but it's an A. But it's such a cool feature and something really fun and creative and innovative about this machine. Something really different that I didn't even realize I wanted in a machine, and now I absolutely love this feature. Obviously, you can use this to sew them into clothing, as labels, even just a decorative feature if you're making a cute robe and you want to do your initials. That is obviously such a cool part of this machine. So I'm actually going to show you a really cool feature of this machine, and that's the automatic thread looper. So I've just put the thread through the normal section of the machine, and what I'm going to do now is pull this lever down, It's going to attach itself to the needle, and you basically just loop the thread around into that hole, and as you lift it up, it literally creates a loop of fabric and you just pull it. So it's already threaded into the needle, and then you're able just to push it back. So the automatic needle threader on this machine is something that I use literally every time. I can't imagine having to go through the little needle hole anymore. I much prefer using this method. It's so much easier just to change out threads. I also just want to quickly touch on that I personally just love the look of this machine. So I know that's something much more aesthetic and it doesn't really make a difference with the sewing, but I do love how high-end and nice and high quality this machine looks. I love this really sleek grey detail. The machine is in majority white and everything just looks really nice and considered, and it looks really expensive. So the price tag is high, but it is a very good machine and it looks the part. The one thing that I would say about this machine that I didn't realise until I bought it, and I'm not sure if you noticed with me just playing around with it there, is the fact that every button you touch has that noise. So that noise, and you can't seem to turn that off, and I find it really annoying. Like, I don't need like sound feedback to tell me that I'm touching something. Like, I just find a normal touch feature fine. So that is one thing that does annoy me a bit, but obviously it's not something you can turn off. So something to bear in mind if you find sounds really annoying, because every time you touch something, it literally makes that noise. So that's something to definitely bear in mind. So this is what this section looks like. As you can see, this is where the needle threader is, and then also at the back of this is what the IDT system is. So this is your built-in walking foot. At the moment, as you can see, it's not attached, so it's not actually working. If I were to press this down, you can see now it's attached, and now it will basically act like you're using a walking foot with this foot. So this also has a settings section. So if I just go to the settings, you can see it has an option for twin needle. It has stitch width safety. I've not turned that on and I'm not sure what that is. But I love that you can play around with the pressure of the presser foot. That's something really cool. Didn't know that that even came with this machine, and I have used it before if I'm using thinner fabrics. And then it also has an automatic presser lift foot. I always have that on. I personally like that. And then also automatic thread snips when you're sewing, which I personally love. It also has different languages you can use on this machine. Oh, audio repeat. Okay, I don't know what that button does. Also lock screen, not sure what that means. But you can also play around with these embroidery settings. I've obviously not tried these before. And then it also has a bit of information on the machine. This really is such a great machine, and it has so many features, more than I actually realised when I bought it. I would say that my main negatives is, number one, that the sound of the kind of touch that you're doing all the time comes on. I do find that annoying. I do find that when you are sewing, the noise of the machine going up and down, and even the thread snip noise, is actually quite loud. Like, it's not a big deal, but I personally just don't like the sound of it. I find it quite annoying, but I guess that is something super minor. I also want to point out that this is a sewing and embroidery machine, and I don't know why I thought I was going to be embroidering like left, right and center and just all the time. And the reality is I haven't even used the embroidery section yet. I think I've used it once and it turned out fine. But it's not something that I realise I actually need in my day-to-day. So I probably didn't need the embroidery section of this machine. There are so many ranges of Pfaff that have high-tech and high-quality machines just for the sewing section, and they are cheaper. And in hindsight, I think I should have chosen a machine that is just a high-tech and high-spec sewing machine rather than a sewing and embroidery, because honestly, I just don't use the embroidery section. There's also so many pros to this machine. I would 100% recommend this machine. I obviously upgraded from a really old brother machine. I don't regret buying this machine. I absolutely love it. I'm just saying that I probably didn't need the embroidery section of this machine. One thing I forgot to talk about is the actual foot pedal. Let me show you what that looks like, because I really love the shape and size of this one. I mean, please ignore my messy floor, But this machine pedal is so much bigger than my old brother one. If I just put my foot there, you can see to scale. As you can see, it's literally massive compared to my foot. And it just feels like I have so much more control when I'm actually pressing it down and up. I didn't realize how much I loved having a big foot pedal over a smaller one. It just makes it so much easier to actually use. So yeah, that was the foot pedal. Definitely recommend how big and spacious it is when you're actually sewing. I really, really like that. Sounds like it's not a big deal, but actually when I use it now every day, I absolutely love it compared to the smaller one. One thing I also find annoying about this machine is that it is so heavy. I mean, this is heavy. Like, I struggle to carry this. I can carry it, but it's heavy. Like, I wouldn't move this off my desk often. And I specifically actually put little rubber pad things at the bottom of the machine so I can slide it across the desk much easier rather than having to pick it up because it is too heavy, I think. So if you're someone that has a stationary desk, obviously heaviness of a machine doesn't really make a difference. But if you're someone that takes their machine off after every use and you don't want it out all the time, this personally I would say is too heavy to move it all the time. It's the heavy gal. Comparing this heaviness to my old brother machine is incomparable. Honestly, this is so much heavier, but obviously it stays full time on my desk, so it doesn't really make a difference. But if you are moving it every day after every sewing session, that might be something you do want to take into consideration because it can be such a pain in the ass to move. But that is my brief review of this sewing machine. Obviously, there's so much more in-depth detail I could do about all the features. If you do want to know something really specific about this machine, let me know in the comments and I can film that for you. I do think I'll do another video all about the different stitches because there's so many and it would be cool to show you what they actually look like on fabric. That's definitely a future video that I'd like to film. Let me know if you would enjoy that. And I hope this video just gives you a bit more clarity on what this machine does, what it looks like in your day-to-day when you're just sewing normal things, and the things that I personally love and don't love about it. Again, I do recommend this machine. I'm not saying it's a bad machine. It's a very, very good machine. But just remember, it is also an expensive machine. So would I say it's worth the price? I'm not sure. I mean, this is probably the most expensive machine I would buy. I mean, they have some expensive machines. I swear I've been on there before and they go up to like 12 to 15 grand for one machine. Obviously, those are probably more like industrial machines that you're using for manufacturing. But this really is a great machine. I do recommend it. Just try it out yourself. I mean, I bought this in Germany. I currently live in the UK, but if you can go to a sewing shop and try out a machine before you actually use it, that would probably be really helpful. I never actually did that. I wouldn't actually change it anyway, apart from the fact that I don't use the embroidery section. So maybe I would actually probably use a sewing machine that's just a sewing machine and maybe has a really small feature for the embroidery. If you want me to try using the embroidery and filming my process using that with this machine, let me know and I can definitely try that. But I hope you enjoyed this video and had a bit more clarity on what the Pfaff Creative 3.0 machine does. I'll see you in the next one.